I play with myself almost every night, and this used underwear from Puma is what I've been using to clean myself up with these last 5 days since I've been back from Jersey. I just busted a thick, yellowy, gooey load onto my cat's eyes because my cat Tobias has this eye problem. Homosexuals nowadays love to use drugs like poppers just to make roosters feel better in their butts, and I think that is so toxic.
That's just disgusting. This is Kevin Leonardo. His name has been popping up a lot lately, and not for good reasons. With over 1 million followers on TikTok and over 400,000 subscribers on YouTube, you'd think he'd have a solid fan base. But most of his audience watch him to hate. Once known for sexual education content, Kevin has shifted into something much more inappropriate, like racist rage baiting. From blackface to using a do-rag in his videos, his content has triggered viewers from all over the world. Kevin has openly expressed pride in the disturbing content he posted, doubling down on his position across his social media accounts. Watching his videos to prepare for this wasn't easy. So today, I'll provide you with all you'll ever need to know about the TikTok creep, Kevin Leonardo. Kevin's intentions might be understood from his background and how he started on social media. Kevin Leonardo started his TikTok journey on January 30th, 2020. With a simple photo reel celebrating his mom's birthday. Kevin, also known online as the Coolest Kev, built a name for himself across TikTok and YouTube. His content initially centered on educational videos about hygiene, self-care, and other personal topics that some might find hard to discuss openly. In the early days, his content focused on personal stories and life as a member of the LGBTQ+ community. These posts resonated with many, offering a sense of connection and support to those seeking it. Over time, Kevin became a recognizable figure within that space.
Tops, if you do these 4 things, your bottom will appreciate you 1,000,000 times more. I'm just kidding, I'm not kidding. Tops that have bottomed before understand how much work it takes to do it properly and comfortably, which automatically makes them better because they know what feels good and what feels bad from first-hand experience.
Even though some people might find this old video of Kevin a bit odd, he did provide some informative advice to the LGBT community about the do's and don'ts of sexual encounters. This is one of his oldest videos where he ranks Taylor Swift's album songs. During this time, his contents were very moderate and acceptable to everyone.
Hi, so this is a story time of when my boss in college slid into my DMs. So I worked security at my school library, which means that
He also created videos where he started narrating events from his life, such as this one, which were enjoyed by his viewers. However, alongside this content is a growing trend of rage bait material designed to provoke reactions from viewers. Kevin's humor often crosses the line in an uncomfortable and insensitive way. Between 2020 and 2022, his content became more noticeable. While he shared personal stories, his videos began leaning into dark humor and attention-grabbing stories to engage viewers.
Here's why you need to be careful with anal douching. I've been bottoming for the same person for the last 2 years now, and on one random day last summer, I rushed the cleaning process. I wasn't paying much attention, and I did not use lube, and I kind of just... It hurt, but I thought it was just temporary pain, so I still went to go see him that night and tried to do the thing.
No, man, that's just repulsive. I mean, why would anyone want to know all this, especially with the vague and unsettling details he was trying to communicate to his viewers?
I tried to bang for 2 seconds, but it didn't work. The next morning, my A-word bled. And for the next 2 days, every time I went to the bathroom, it bled some more.
This is just unbelievable. I feel irritated just listening to him talk about it. Let's move on from this creepy video for now. On September 6th, 2021, Kevin launched his YouTube channel at The Coolest Kev, where he continued this approach. Though he had built a modest following, his content remained relatively niche until a specific video pushed him into the spotlight. Kevin posted a YouTube video titled "Removing Butt Hairs Using Nair Cream."
For reference, this is how hairy my butt is right now. To squeeze this cream onto your hand, so I'm going to be doing just that.
The video, which featured Kevin demonstrating the process on camera, led to a lot of controversy. Viewers were shocked by its uncensored nature, leading many to question how it adhered to YouTube's content guidelines. While some called for its removal, citing the platform's policies, others defended the video as educational and not in violation of the rules. The clip was eventually age-restricted, but still went viral, as people shared it to provoke reactions from others.
Stay right there. Stay.
Where my butt is right now. The step one is to squeeze this cream onto your hand, so I'm going to be doing just that. Alright, now it says to apply a thick, even layer to cover hair. Do not rub it in, so let's do that.
That man just had enough. He's probably going to sleep after that traumatic experience.
For reference, this is how hairy my butt is right now.
What?
Alright, so step one is to squeeze this cream onto your hand.
The backlash of this video, while serious, didn't last long. Instead, Kevin's follower count grew rapidly, as the video attracted new viewers to his YouTube and TikTok accounts. Just a few months before the Nair video, his YouTube channel had 12,000 subscribers. Today, that number has increased over 400,000, driven largely by his shift to content that provokes thought through storytelling and tutorials. This combination is unconventional and has captured a lot of audiences. Kevin followed up his controversial Nair video with a parody of Colleen Ballinger's infamous ukulele apology. In this clip, he used humor to address the backlash surrounding his Nair video. The parody copied the style and tone of Ballinger's original apology, complete with self-awareness and comedic elements.
Toxic gossip train, chugging down the tracks of butt hair removal. Toxic gossip train, you got a one-way ticket to a hairless butthole. Toxic gossip train, tie me to the tracks and harass me for my butt. Clenches look like wings if you take time to think. I'm just a skinny twink, but hey, at least my hairs are gone. Toxic gossip train, locomotives fueled with funny reactions.
By using this approach, Kevin aimed to deflect criticism. While some viewers found the parody amusing and clever, others saw it as a dismissal of concerns raised about his content.
All jokes aside, let's talk about why I posted my Nair video.
After the intention of the Nair video, Kevin decided to make another video reacting to it. Some people thought he was going to apologize for releasing such disturbing images.
For people that don't know, last Sunday I uploaded a video onto YouTube where I show people and teach people how to remove their butt hairs using the Nair cream. The video is literally titled "Removing Butt Hairs Using Nair, a Visual Guide." So I don't understand how people are like shocked. And also, before I show anything, I literally say, for reference, this is how hairy my butt is right now. So like that was like your warning, you know?
Kevin's response to the backlash about his Nair video misses the point. He tries to frame it as straightforward and educational, but the issue isn't the topic. It's how he chooses to present it. Saying, "I don't understand how people are shocked." It feels like he's ignoring the fact that many found the explicit nature of the video inappropriate, regardless of its intent. The title might explain the content, but it doesn't justify showing something so graphic on a platform like YouTube, where a wide and varied audience, including younger viewers, might stumble upon it. Even if the goal was to educate, there are ways to approach sensitive topics without being extreme. Instead of addressing why people might feel uncomfortable or his approach might not have been the best, he continued on the path as if the criticism wasn't valid.
Anyway, I made this video because really, like, this is my job. Like, I've been posting about like bottoming and like butt stuff since literally 2021. Like, all you have to do is scroll down for proof.
Kevin's response is self-serving, and instead of acknowledging why people might be uncomfortable with the explicit nature of his Nair video, he seems more interested in justifying himself and promoting his other content. By saying this is my job and referencing his past videos, It feels like he's trying to shift focus to his body of work rather than the issue. The comment about giving a warning before showing his butt doesn't help much either. A warning doesn't make something automatically appropriate where the audience isn't limited to people specifically looking for this type of content. It's very annoying how he subtly promotes his past videos, almost as if to direct traffic to them. It feels out of place in response to criticism.
I sell a course on safe bottoming, and I sell discreet douche kits at the link in my bio. Like, that's why I talk about those things a lot. I also do sponsorships for brands, and I just work online basically. I give tips on butts and like bottoming online because when I was first starting out as a bottom and like when I was first like shaving my butt or like using creams and stuff, I didn't really know what I was doing, and as a result, I got hurt kind of often. Like, I would douche improperly, or I would like shave improperly, or I would like use a cream wrongly and I would get like burns, or like I would bleed out of my butt, or like I would just get hurt, and like that just wasn't fun.
Kevin's continued response feels less like an explanation or apology and more like a sales pitch. By shifting focus to promoting his course on safe bottoming and the products he sells, he comes across as someone trying to capitalize on the controversy rather than address it. This approach shows that he's more interested in using the backlash as a marketing opportunity than genuinely engaging with the concerns people raised about the explicit nature of his content. While sharing his personal experiences about learning safe practices for bottoming could be helpful in another context, bringing it up here feels out of place. Instead of acknowledging why people might have found the Nair video inappropriate or apologizing for how it was presented, he uses his story to justify his actions. The personal anecdotes about his early struggles with bottoming and injuries could have been a way to connect with his audience, but in this context, they feel more like a distraction.
For me, when I was first experimenting and like trying stuff out, I didn't really see tutorials online or like anything that like could really help me with doing certain things and like preparing for certain things. And so that's why I failed at doing those things. I've learned a lot through experience, and I want to share what I've learned online because I feel like some people actually need the advice. I even posted like a shaving your butt tutorial onto YouTube last summer, and no one like raised a red flag there. Like, this Nair thing wasn't the first time that I like taught people how to remove butt hairs, like visually. And it's cool, you know, like I love attention, I love going viral, and I love like money, like this is my job. But I wanted to explain to you like why I did that, because people have been asking.
Kevin missed why people found the video disturbing. He talks about his intent to provide educational content and help others avoid mistakes he once made, but he sidesteps the fact that the explicit nature of his video is the real issue, claiming, "If you find that video arousing, that's not on me." So annoying to hear, especially since most people didn't find the video arousing. They found it inappropriate and uncomfortable. He tries to frame the video as necessary educational content, but that doesn't address why he chose such a graphic presentation. Sharing advice about grooming or preparation is one thing, but visually demonstrating it in such a way isn't right, regardless of his intent. His comment about loving attention and money shows why he does what he does. It makes it seem like he's more focused on the viral impact than the content's appropriateness. However, a visit to Kevin's TikTok page reveals countless comments praising his humor and out-of-pocket personality. Many fans argue that his explicit comedic style sets him apart. Critics, on the other hand, often describe his content as distasteful. Yet, any critique is typically dismissed by Kevin's supporters as an overreaction, with detractors labeled as overly sensitive or unable to take a joke. For his fans, Kevin appears to be a misunderstood creator aiming to educate his community on taboo topics in an unconventional way. But this surface-level interpretation may not do justice to the full picture. While Kevin's content is presented as educational, a closer look raises questions. Some of his clips, though labeled as informative, seem to be made for shock value. So let's look at some more clips of Kevin and analyze them. Kevin Leonardo shared a TikTok clip titled, "I Haven't Been Back to Indonesia," a video that, like much of his content, could easily appear in anyone's recommendations. In the clip, Kevin uses his usual provocative humor to discuss a real tragedy that occurred in Indonesia. The tragedy in question is tied to the colonial crimes committed by the Dutch, and Kevin's comment focuses on his so-called desires surrounding these historical events.
As a sub, I'm really into colonization. Like, I almost wish I was there when my home country was being colonized by, I think, the Dutch.
In the video, Kevin shares his fascination with colonization, claiming he wishes he were present during the Dutch occupation of Indonesia. He praises the Dutch colonizers in an exaggerated, almost admiring way, describing them as if they were fictional heroes rather than perpetrators of real harm. His words are far from the historical gravity of the topic, reducing the experiences of colonized people to what he describes as humor.
I feel like it would have been so fun to observe like the manly pirates. Not like for real, obviously. I just mean like in a fun, like sensual, like way, you know? So when people ask me like, Kevin, what do you like? Like, what are you into? Just know that like the core of everything that I'm attracted to is a dominant, masculine man. He doesn't have to be like super macho manly, but just like at least more than me. Like that shouldn't be so hard.
In the end, he seemed to be talking about his preference for men. But why did he have to undermine the effect of colonization just to make his point? That's the issue most people have with many of his videos, including this one.
Hard, you know what I mean? I just haven't been able to be attracted to somebody more feminine than me because I feel like the dynamic is like completely different, and like at that point we're just like friends, which is cool, but like partner wise, like no, you know? He also has to be more smart and more mature. Like I don't want to baby a man. That's why I'm usually into guys that are like slightly older than me, like 27 to 30. That's like my main range. I'm open to like 35 max, and like obviously if someone's 25, which is my age, and they're super cool and we have good chemistry, like I'm not gonna turn them down. Like I'm open to that, but generally 27 to 30 is like my ideal range.
Kevin later clarifies that his statements shouldn't be taken literally. He explains that he intended to frame the discussion in a fun way, not to genuinely endorse the events he referenced. Ultimately, his point was to transition into talking about his dating preferences, using the historical tragedy as an entry point for his topic. He concludes by saying he enjoys dominant figures in relationships, tying this theme to the colonial narrative in a way he claims is playful. Some viewers joked along with the clip, suggesting that Kevin should keep such thoughts to himself. Others criticized him, with some creating their response videos pointing out the insensitivity of using a real-world tragedy to make a point about dating preferences. As usual, Kevin's defenders dismissed these critiques as an inability to take a joke. In the next video, we learn more about his origins in Indonesia and how he became the person he is today. Let's take a look.
The Muslims in Indonesia burned my house down, hit my dad in the head with a wooden stake, and threatened to kill my entire family.
It's clear that he had a traumatic start in his home country, Indonesia. This might explain why he seemed less concerned about the effect of his comments on the colonization of Indonesia. And yes, what the Muslim Indonesians did to his family was undeniably wrong. Kevin's family were forced to flee where they call home to survive.
Because we are Catholic and we look Chinese, and so my mom and I came here to the US in 2006. So I was here going through puberty for the first time, and because I was molested by like a really crusty old dude when I was 6 years old.
Here's another traumatic experience he faced as a boy. These traumas and experiences must have affected him in some ways while growing up. Whether he had support to deal with these issues at the time is unclear.
I also liked weird scenes from popular movies. Like when guys in movies would put like worms in their pants, my 12-year-old self would be like, oh, like that's exciting. It was really weird. And I bring up all of this like weirdness and like secrecy and self-hatred because all of this led to me like plucking off all of my hair in middle school and like cutting myself in high school. And I was forced to go to therapy as a kid, but like fun fact, that wasn't the thing that like saved me ultimately. Therapy only works if the person wants to be helped, and my 12-year-old self did not want help. So what actually got me through all of that like pain and self-hatred and like weirdness was actually friendship.
Nah, his mind was damaged during those times, at least based on what he just said. Experiencing such things at such a young age can have a serious effect on the mind. He claimed that the molestation he faced when he was young led to his interest in some unusual things with regard to intimacy, and he found gruesome and violent scenes in movies involving sexual parts of the body exciting.
into weird things. The first being wedgies. I don't know why this was the case, but like I remember reading like Captain Underpants and being like, oh. I was also really into weird scenes in movies. Like I remember rewatching this like clip from Home Alone 2 where like one of the bad guys like kept getting stapled like in his balls, and I remember like liking that scene and like rewatching it again and again.
Kevin shares a deeply personal story about struggle, self-discovery, and healing. It shows how acceptance and support from friends can make a big difference in overcoming pain. But did he heal from those traumas? In another video, we see Kevin talk about another sensitive topic involving role play.
Was on for a long time with the idea of going to Island. Obviously not realistically, but like in a imaginary like role-playing scenario with someone that I love and trust. I used to be drawn by the idea of going to Island and having like him.
The video references Epstein and his island. In the clip, Kevin shares a hypothetical fantasy about visiting the island, not as a predator, but as a victim. He describes wanting to role-play as a 17-year-old boy being taken advantage of by wealthy individuals, asking rhetorically, who wouldn't want that?
Like, I've always dreamt of that. Like, it's just a thing that kind of like gave me an idea when I was watching his documentary. Like, oh, I would love to go to like a rich person's island and then like be forced to.
This statement made many viewers furious. The idea of framing a real-world tragedy that harmed countless individuals for personal amusement was met with a lot of backlash. Critics argue that publicizing such thoughts, even if intended as humor or personal expression, is insensitive to the lived experiences of victims. This kind of behavior makes it difficult to see any educational or meaningful intent behind the clip.
Like, who wouldn't want that? I mentioned this because that was a documentary that I watched in 2019, and I told him like the day after, like, hey, can we do a role play with this? And he agreed with no hesitation, and he, you know, pretended to be Mr. and I'd be like a 17-year-old boy from Thailand.
So around last year, he came out to claim that he finally made it to the island and did what he had always wanted.
Let's talk about why I roleplayed on Jeffrey Epstein's island as a gay bottom from Thailand. First off, we chose Thailand because they give sensual massages there, and also because I can kind of pass as like a Thailand person. I am Chinese, Filipino, and Indonesian, and like most Southeast Asian people like look similar, and so I was like, oh, well, I can pass as like a Thai masseuse, and like my ex friend with benefits, who was the Jewish man Ashkenazi, like agreed. So I was molested by a pedo.
By choosing to roleplay on Jeffrey Epstein's island, he references a real-life tragedy. Linking this to his personal identity and joking about it diminishes the seriousness of the events and the sufferings of the victims. His reasoning for picking Thailand based on the stereotypes about massages and appearance also pushes a harmful generalization about Thai people and Southeast Asians. While humor and personal identity are valid forms of expression, using tragedy and cultural stereotypes as the basis for this roleplay shows poor judgment.
So I was molested by a pedo when I was 6 years old, and so because of that, I always had issues with like anything sexual.
Acknowledging such a painful part of his life is important, as it can help to understand the long-term effects of trauma. However, linking this experience to his earlier comments about role-playing on Jeffrey Epstein's island complicates the message. While his intent may be to explain how his past shaped his views and actions, it risks coming across as a justification for insensitive behavior. Trauma can manifest in many ways, and it's essential to handle it with care for oneself and others. Publicly addressing personal trauma in a way that mixes with controversial and inappropriate humor can be bad for his story.
Most victims of like molesting become like super hypersexual and promiscuous, and they bang a lot of people after the fact. I didn't. I went the opposite way. I was very sexually repressed. I had a lot of thoughts about sex, but like they were never like executed in real life.
He talked about how victims of abuse may respond in different ways, such as becoming hypersexual, or in his case, sexually repressed. Sharing personal experiences can help others feel less alone, but the generalization that most victims react a certain way is not entirely true. every person's response to trauma is unique, and statements like this may unintentionally invalidate experiences that don't fit the description.
When I was 20 years old, I met a Jewish man, Ashkenazi, who I fell in love with, and I lost my V card to, and he was the first person that I ever fell in love with, and like the first person that I felt very comfortable with in like an intimate setting. He bred me twice a week for like 4 years, and in this like healthy sexual relationship, every month or like every 2 months, we would sit on the couch and he would be like, okay, Kevin, like, what's a new thing that you want to try? Like, what's a new fantasy that you have in mind?
Kevin discussed the relationship as both his first intimate experience and a source of comfort. He views this relationship as a positive experience in his sexual life, although the language he uses, particularly phrases like "bred me twice a week," can be misinterpreted and seen as unnecessarily graphic to most listeners. The phrasing distracts viewers from what could otherwise be a meaningful reflection on healing through a supportive and consensual relationship. To be more constructive, Kevin could have framed this part of his story to focus on how this relationship helped him overcome repression and build trust, rather than giving details that might overshadow the intended message. Context matters, and balancing openness with sensitivity is necessary.
This one day in, I think, 2019, I had just watched the Jeffrey Epstein documentary on Netflix, and obviously it was a really scary story, and I really feel bad for all the victims involved, and I would never want to actually like be invited to like a crazy island by like a powerful toxic person. Like, I would never want that. But in like a sensual setting with somebody that I loved and trusted, like I wanted to like relieve that trauma of like feeling powerless in a sexual situation, like as like a victim.
Kevin said he made an attempt to process his trauma by being in a place where he could reclaim control in a consensual setting. This method of coping may be personal and meaningful to him, but discussing it in the context of the Jeffrey Epstein documentary is unwise.
I felt that way when I was like a kid and when I was like molested by a I was like very much powerless and he was very much powerful. And so I was like, oh, I kind of want to like relieve that because like it's kind of sexy anyway. Like if my partner like could pretend to be like this rich, famous, powerful person with like a whole island, and like if he could invite me and if I could like give him a massage and like call him like by a fake name, like Mr. Epstein, like, can I give you a massage? He agreed, and we did it like 2 or 3 times over like a few months. Like, it wasn't that many times. Was it fun? Yeah.
Their video got a lot of criticism, and Kevin was forced to make another video clearing the air about what he meant was going on Epstein Island to roleplay.
So I do want to make this video to clear the air. So the Jew and I were never actually like physically, realistically on Jeffrey Epstein's island. We were just on Jeffrey Epstein's island mentally, in like a safe, sensual, consenting role-playing situation in his apartment on Sunset and Vine in LA.
Kevin's clarification in the new video attempts to address the criticism by saying that his reference to Jeffrey Epstein's island was not literal but metaphorical. However, this explanation falls short of addressing the concerns raised by his earlier video. In the video, he says that he and his partner were on the island mentally, which does little to mitigate the discomfort caused by invoking such a specific and sensitive real-world tragedy. Also, in the first video, he didn't clearly mention that he was on the island mentally. He made it seem like he was physically there and did all those things with his Jewish friend. Now he's trying to maneuver by saying he wasn't there at all.
The reason why we both agreed to do this is because we're both really into power dynamics. So he is super dominant and I am personally super submissive. So back then when I was seeing him, to keep our relationship kind of like exciting, every month he would sit me down on his couch and he'd go like, oh, like, is there anything new on your mind that you want to try?
He has completely changed this story into an imaginary one. He probably faced so much backlash that it could have led to legal issues for him to sit and throw those words in the face of his viewers. Unfortunately, some of his viewers saw nothing wrong with what he did and even encouraged him to keep going. This has given him the courage to continue posting annoying and degrading content. Such content can be observed in his view and likeness for young girls. The video titled "Little Girls Make Me So Happy" relies on shock value, drawing attention through its suggestive phrasing.
Little girls genuinely excite me so much, and I can't tell you like how happy that I get when I see and meet little girls in public.
Kevin justifies it as a double meaning, but the approach is inappropriate. The video transitions into a discussion about his appreciation for having fans who look up to him, including children.
So yesterday, I got to meet so many of my younger female fans at the ice skating rink in Pasadena.
In the video, Kevin talks about meeting a young girl who taught him how to ice skate. This story could have been an innocent reflection, but including an uncensored image of the child changes the tone entirely. This girl offered to coach Kevin on skating.
Dad, but like basically when this little girl like taught me how to skate, I'm not even a bad skater, by the way, like I'm a decent skater, but she was like, oh, you can improve this, you can improve that, like keep up with me here, if you need to fall, like these are the safety whatever. And her friend like helped my sister, so like it was me and this girl named Eden, the one that I just mentioned, and then her friend Kylie and my sister Olivia, and the whole time we were just in those groups too, skating around the rink. And I don't know, I did not expect skating to be so nice and so fun, and I couldn't believe that I had the time of my life in just 2 hours on a Sunday, casual Sunday, skating in Pasadena.
It's troubling to think that the girl's parents might not have known their child's photo would appear in a video with a provocative title and references to predatory behavior. Making matters worse, the video also includes clips of other minors who are fans of Kevin's work. It's unclear whether Kevin obtained permission from these children's parents to post them. If he didn't, this is a breach of privacy. Even if permission was granted, associating their likeness with a channel frequently using controversial and explicit humor is not good.
Genuinely, like whenever I see groups of little girls like come up to me, I have this feeling in my heart that like I just like it makes me like can't wait to have daughters. Like I'll definitely be super anxious having a daughter because I know that there are so many like men that like would want to hurt them, but I absolutely love just talking and getting to know.
Kevin expresses a desire to have daughters while acknowledging the dangers posed by predatory behavior in the world. This statement is at odds with his decision to display girls' faces on a platform that could attract attention. His actions contradict his stated concerns about child safety, making it difficult to take his words at face value. But are people trying in any way to bring awareness about the potential harm Kevin might cause? On August 24th, 2023, a Twitter user named @MintyBadword posted a detailed thread about his experience in Kevin Leonardo's Discord server. He joined the server expecting an adult-only LGBTQ+ educational space, but discovered a troubling environment. According to Minty, the server, which had over 4,000 members, included a lot of minors. They raised concerns about the lack of moderation and inappropriate interactions taking place in what was supposed to be a safe community. Minty's thread included screenshots from the server showing Kevin's rules, such as a no NSFW rule, a 13+ rule, and rule prohibiting inappropriate messages to Kevin. Despite these rules, Minty claimed that minors had unrestricted access to NSFW channels and that inappropriate discussions were happening. One screenshot showed a minor stating they were starting high school, advertising that their direct messages were open for contact. Another showed a minor participating in discussions within NSFW channels. Following the initial post, Minty provided updates, revealing that Kevin was aware of the thread. Instead of addressing the concerns seriously, Kevin reportedly responded in the server by posting, "Guys, we're controversial," along with the photo of the thread. Minty also posted that one of Kevin's moderators, identified as Meta, was only 14 years old. Screenshots from the server confirmed Meta's age and revealed that they were hand-picked by Kevin. Meta's conversations with other users showed that moderation discussions were entirely in Kevin's hands, and that he was aware of the age of his moderators. Later, Kevin responded to the allegations on Twitter by retweeting Minty's original thread. In his defense, Kevin tweeted that the behaviors described by Minty violated the server's rules. He stated that the NSFW sections were intended for adults over 18 seeking educational discussions, not for minors. However, this defense didn't address the lack of enforcement of these rules, or the presence of minors in spaces where they could access such content. Kevin claimed not to condone such behavior. His actions, such as assigning a minor as a moderator and failing to enforce server rules, suggest a lack of oversight. A few months after Minty's thread about Kevin Leonardo's Discord server, another user started a new thread on Twitter, raising additional concerns about Kevin. Gothic called for people to cancel Kevin and questioned why he still had a platform. He described Kevin's problematic behavior, including his jokes about inappropriate actions with his cat, which we'll look at later in this video. Gothic pointed out issues in Kevin's content, including inappropriate humor and a lack of accountability, and expressed confusion over why these concerns weren't being widely discussed. Later that same day, Gothic posted a follow-up thread, stating that he is reorganizing the information due to the significant attention the first thread received. He claimed to have discovered more troubling details about Kevin and wanted to present them clearly. Gothic also revealed that he is over 18 years old but still in high school, and that Kevin's response to his initial post made him uncomfortable. In his response, Kevin expressed excitement about the attention Gothic's post was generating. So, with that aside, let's take a look at the concerns many have observed in the way Kevin interacts with his cat.
I caught my cat smelling the stiff, crinkly sock that I keep behind my bed. This is a photo of him caught in the act. For reference, I do use this sock every single night before bed. Like, it helps me sleep. I wash this every Sunday, and so like in the beginning of the week, usually it's like super clean, and then by like Saturday night or like Sunday morning, it's like full of just like tadpoles, like dried up tadpoles and stuff. I don't know if Tobias likes the smell of my crinkly sock. Like, I hope not. Like, I don't want him to be like aroused by the sock or like by... I do touch myself in front of my cat before bed every single night. I'm not sure if this is like ethical. It doesn't like cross my mind as like a real thought. Like, I've just always played with myself like every single night, and when Tobias came into my life around October and he started to like sleep in my bed with me, I didn't really think twice about changing up my routine in terms of like when or like how I should like caress myself. Most of the time he's either like sleeping or he's like just busted a thick yellowy gooey load onto my cat's eyes, because my cat Tobias has like this like eye problem where he just like has teary eyes all the time, and we thought it was herpes for the longest time, but like we never actually tested. We failed to make my cat squirt yesterday, and I am absolutely devastated, as I am with literally anything cat related, because I just stress so much about Tobias, and I just want him to like live his best life in the most comfortable and happy way possible.
Many have questioned Kevin's involvement with the animal, and he often claims that he's in a non-intimate relationship with his cat.
I've never joked about my cat. I actually love Tobias so much. Like, I've invested so much money and so much love into this cat.
Sounds convincing, but why would he also say this?
I stuck this fun stick inside my cat's moist hole, and I just like slid it in and out to try to like just please him and service my cat, because all hail King Tobias, and he seemed to have like enjoyed it. I used to finger my cat all the time with my fingers, but like...
Something is wrong with what he's portraying to his viewers about his cat, but I'll leave that for you guys to decide. Please tell me what your thoughts are in the comments section. Here are more videos of Kevin and his cat, just in case you hadn't seen enough to make up your mind.
I come to my cat once a day outside because I feel like it's good for me to be stimulated in his environment. Now, my cat Tobias comes to me at night because he loves to be touched and caressed in bed right next to me before and after I play with myself. We are draining my cat's balls today. We are going to put him to sleep and then poke and play with his balls without his consent.
Kevin Leonardo's content frequently employs shock value and humor with double meanings. In one of his clips, Kevin uses inappropriate language to describe his interactions with his cat Tobias, often relying on wordplay that can easily be misunderstood. For example, in one video he discusses his cat's sleeping habits in a way that shows his lower body, creating a scenario that feels intentionally provocative.
Lubricating my cat's hole is something I love to do every single day because it makes me feel good knowing that like things can slide in and out of my cat's hole just a lot more easily and a lot more efficiently. And at the same time, I know that like when my cat is like at his wettest and most moist, there's a smaller chance of him like feeling pain.
Kevin joked about making out with his cat, though the double meaning behind this phrasing remains unclear. He follows this with another example of explicit dialogue, which he claims is about getting his cat to relax. While he ultimately reveals that he's referring to harmless activities like curling up with Tobias to help him fall asleep, the choice of words appears deliberately designed to provoke.
Tobias sharted like a lot this morning, and his shart like sagged over to the floor of like my guest bedroom, and it stinks, and it's starting to be like a concern for like my mom and me.
Some may argue that these are just jokes and that Kevin isn't engaging in any harmful behavior with his pet. However, others might find these attempts at humor unnecessary. Humor is subjective, and while some viewers may see this as playful, others view it as weird or inappropriate. Adding to this is a TikTok video he titled, "Officially a Domestic Survivor." The title suggests a serious or personal story, but it is not really.
Guess who's officially a victim of domestic me?
Kevin Leonardo's skit about his cat Tobias scratching his nose is the same MO of using misleading setups to attract attention. The title, paired with the hashtag domestic survivor, implies a serious story, potentially about surviving domestic violence, which could be meaningful to viewers seeking relatable experiences. Instead, it's revealed to be a joke about a minor incident involving his cat. While some viewers point out that domestic violence is not something to joke about, Kevin responds dismissively, claiming there's no joke at all. His defenders supported this idea, suggesting critics are too sensitive. This response deflects valid criticism. Hashtags like domestic survivor are often used by those seeking support or sharing survival stories. Using such a tag for humor, especially with no meaningful discussion or purpose, appears thoughtless. Also, Kevin repeatedly mentions his cat as his boyfriend.
Here is everything I fed my abusive boyfriend. For reference, he's about 11 pounds and 3 years old. At 7 a.m., I got started on his breakfast, which is Pina Pro Plans chicken and rice entree. Of course, I added some water with this meal because no UTIs up here, and then I added a scoop of Viralis lysine supplement, and here's how it looks.
Kevin has so much offensive and sensitive content on his page that one might wonder why his account is still up and running. Take this video, for example.
My balls smelled so bad this week to the point where like if I just opened my legs, even with like pants and like underwear on, the stink would literally exude out of like my groin area and just like stink up the entire vicinity of like wherever I'm at.
Why should Kevin expect that type of smelly content to be of any value to anyone watching his video? He is obviously obsessed with attention, and he's willing to do anything to get it.
I wasn't like fully shocked because like over the weekend I didn't work out for like 2 or 3 days, and like if I'm not working out, sometimes I'll like go days without showering if I'm like feeling lazy. So I wasn't super shocked that they stink, but like it's crazy because normally they stink the most like the first week or two after like I use like a Nair cream or like a hair remover cream on my balls. Whenever my balls are super hairless, they tend to stink more because there are no hairs down there to like capture the sweat and like capture the scent. My balls are super hairy now and they still stink if I don't shower for like more.
Apart from the fact that he is very vulgar in what he says online, he doesn't seem to find any shame in subtly admitting that he is often unclean. He essentially says that if he doesn't work out on a given day, the likelihood of him taking a bath is very low. As a result, he ends up being smelly all day long.
I don't shower for like more than like a day. So don't forget to wash your balls in the shower. It's not really enough to just like grab some soap and like wipe the area. Like you should use like a loofah or like a bar soap and like really get in there, including like the taint areas too, or better yet, use like a scrub around there so like you can exfoliate like the dead skin cells. It's not a nice smell, so definitely take a shower even if you're not working out. It's also literally summertime, so like the balls smell will be more prominent in the next few months, so.
I'm sure some of his supporters will say, yes, Kevin is doing a great job educating us. But honestly, would you rely on a vulgar character like Kevin to remind you to bathe? Another argument his supporters often make is that his content isn't directed at kids, so critics shouldn't worry about how vulgar he is. I doubt that's the case. Imagine if a preteen or early teen child stumbles across one of his videos where he's talking about balls or holes and other inappropriate topics. It raises the question of whether kids should have unrestricted access to the internet, especially with characters like Kevin roaming around spreading nonsense for personal gain. To address the claim that his content is not for kids, towards the end of the clip I played earlier, he said, "Guys and girls, take care of your hygiene." Subconsciously, Kevin knows he isn't talking to grown-ups who already understand the importance of bathing. He's targeting younger viewers. It's no surprise then that his Discord channel is filled with minors. Kevin Leonardo's TikTok content has always led to controversy, especially with his repeated racist remarks, particularly targeting black people. Watching his videos, it's hard to ignore the pattern: offensive statements that seem to provoke reactions. Kevin hasn't limited his remarks to one group either. He's also targeted Indian people, repeating harmful stereotypes and claiming they're true based on his experiences. To add to this, he includes disclaimers saying his videos aren't meant to offend, but those words don't match the tone or the content of the videos. If the intent isn't to offend, why share statements that are so obviously hurtful in the first place? TikTok, being a platform with millions of users, including children, needs to take these issues seriously. Imagine a young Indian child stumbling upon one of these videos. They could internalize the stereotypes and feel ashamed or self-conscious about who they are. The same goes for the black community, who have been his primary target, as his remarks seem disproportionately aimed at them.
The darkest of blacks would get called out for cultural appropriation if they wore this Youthforia foundation shade. This is literally like if a brand put out like a purely orange shade or like a purely yellow shade and was like, "Here you go, Asians."
Kevin Leonardo's comment about the darkest of blacks and his joke about cultural appropriation and foundation shades come off as tone-deaf. Comparing Asians to foundation shades shows little awareness of the issues around cultural appropriation and racial identity. Instead of approaching these topics with care, his comment feels more like a way to mock and provoke, rather than contribute anything meaningful. It's hard to see this as anything other than an attempt to cause outrage or grab attention. Whether he didn't consider the harm his words could cause or deliberately leaned into the controversy for shock value, the result is the same. His remarks feel out of place.
Blacks of the internet are very upset with Youthforia for releasing this super dark foundation, and I don't wear makeup, but like I'm obsessed with like online beauty scandals and like drama, so like I had to get a bottle for myself. So today, let's put this on my face and see if their criticism is valid. I've always wanted to do makeup reviews, so I'm so excited. It says to put on 2 pumps, so let's see what that does for us. I even bought like an e.l.f. foundation brush. Like I'm taking this very seriously.
If Kevin were genuinely serious, this kind of content wouldn't be posted online in the first place. Referring to critics as the blacks of the internet is unreasonable, reducing valid concerns about cultural sensitivity to a careless generalization. It's as if he's saying their objections aren't worth taking seriously. While Kevin claims to be excited about exploring beauty scandals and makeup reviews, the way he approaches the topic makes it hard to see any genuine intent. His actions feel more like an attempt to mock this situation rather than engage thoughtfully with the criticism. Comments like, "Let's see if their criticism is valid," make it seem like he's trying to position himself as the judge of these issues, even though he lacks any real connection or understanding of them.
Person and like product management person, like, girl, please. This is Youthforia's darkest foundation fully applied on my face. The darkest of blacks would get called out for cultural appropriation if they wore this Youthforia foundation shade. This is literally like if a brand put out like a purely orange shade or like a purely yellow shade and was like, "Here you go, Asians." Youthforia actually tried to like one-up Fenty by saying like, "Oh, our darkest shade is actually darker than Fenty's darkest shade," because they know that like Fenty is known for being inclusive, and so they thought that like if they released a shade darker than Fenty's darkest shade, they could be considered like inclusive as well. And
his comparison to a purely orange or yellow shade for Asians completely misses the point. Instead of appreciating the importance of creating inclusive foundation shades for diverse skin tones, he turns it into a joke. This kind of humor dismisses the progress brands like Fenty have made in addressing the lack of representation in the beauty industry. His comment about Youthphoria trying to one-up Fenny by offering a darker shade also downplays the work of making products that cater to underrepresented groups. To make matters worse, Kevin frequently uses the N-word and has even tried to justify it.
The N-word was honestly a part of my daily vocab for like the longest time. I think I was like about 19 when I stopped using the N-word, and now I only really say the N-word when Beyonce's Sorry comes on in the shower or like when I'm alone in the car.
Seems like saying the N-word was a norm for him. Saying it was part of his daily vocab and casually mentioning he still uses it when singing along to Beyonce gives the impression that he doesn't fully understand the weight of the word or why people find it offensive. It's really about recognizing the history and harm tied to it. Sharing this information online doesn't seem necessary, especially since it adds nothing constructive to the conversation. Instead, it comes off as him downplaying the seriousness of using a slur by treating it like a normal habit he occasionally indulges in. People didn't find his remarks interesting or relatable. They found them disturbing, and for good reason. It's hard to see this as anything other than a failure to take accountability for something that offends or hurts others. If Kevin wanted to show growth, this comment could have been an opportunity to acknowledge why he used the word in the past, and why he now understands it's wrong. Instead, it just feels like another example of him brushing off valid criticism.
But back then, when I was like in middle school and like high school and like college, the N-word was like synonymous with like friend or like bro, which was why Rich Brian, the rapper, started out as like Rich Chigga. And like my friends and I would literally use every slur under the sun, not to like offend people, but just to like use them. I guess we were like young and like low-key dumb, but I literally would use like and like bag with an F for like gay people, and like the C slur for like Asians.
Instead of reflecting on why such language is harmful, he excuses it by saying that when he was younger, slurs like the N-word were used casually among his friends, as if that makes it acceptable. Saying we were like young and low-key dumb might explain why he used the words in the past, but it doesn't show any real understanding of the harm those words cause or why people are upset now. And I doubt that he's any different now from when he was young. The way he casually lists multiple slurs he used, including ones targeting different communities, is unnecessary. It's as if he's trying to downplay his actions by lumping all offensive words together and brushing them off as youthful ignorance. This approach doesn't show any accountability, which we all know he lacks.
I don't know, like back then it was like more socially acceptable to use these slurs, and like literally everyone I knew used these slurs in person or like on Tumblr. Tumblr was big when I was like growing up, and like on Twitter. I would publicly tweet so many of these like offensive slurs, and I obviously have deleted literally all of them. I've used like a million versions of like tweeter deleter, and like I would just type in like Kevin Leonardo N-word, Kevin Leonardo F-word, and I would like delete all of those tweets. My Twitter got locked last year though, so like now if you like look up my name and like an offensive thing on my old Twitter, you'll only find like tweets about Mexicans at like my old school and like my high school and stuff, because all of the ones about like black people and like gay people and like mentally disabled people, they're all gone.
What Kevin said doesn't come across as apologetic in any way. It feels more like damage control. And saying slurs were more socially acceptable back then and literally everyone was using them. Just because something might have been normalized doesn't make it right, and this explanation feels like an excuse rather than a meaningful acknowledgement of the harm caused. His focus on deleting offensive tweets also misses the point. Instead of addressing why he thought it was okay to use such language in the first place, he talks about how he scrubbed his online presence to hide the evidence. It feels less like he's sorry for using those words and more like he's sorry people might find them. The casual mention that tweets about Mexicans remain because he couldn't delete everything shows how insensitive he is, as though it's not a big deal.
So now you can only find like, I think, just random jokes that I've made about Mexicans. If you know me and my content, you know that I obviously love to push boundaries, but I like to adapt. Like, if someone's like offended by something, I will obviously change my behavior if I think it like makes sense. And so now that like all of these terms are like super socially unacceptable, that's why I will not use those terms ever, because I don't want to like make anyone truly upset.
Kevin's comment saying, "You can only find random jokes I've made about Mexicans," makes it seem as if those jokes are somehow less harmful or less serious than the ones he already deleted. It gives the impression that he's more concerned with what's left for people to find. While he claims he adapts his behavior if people are offended, the way he phrases it feels insincere. It sounds like he's changing because it's now super socially unacceptable, rather than because he understands the harm his words can cause. That's not real growth. It's just going with the flow to avoid backlash. The part about not wanting to truly upset anyone is more like an afterthought. If he genuinely cared about not upsetting people, he wouldn't have made those jokes in the first place, or he'd take more accountability now. Instead, his views sound like he's just trying to brush everything under the rug without addressing the problem of why his words were hurtful. It's hard to take this as a serious effort to own up to his mistakes.
And like low-key, I will never understand those people that like go out of their way to use these slurs to make others upset. Like, I feel like that's like low-key rude and like messed up. And I also will never understand why people that are like starting out on social media and like want to build a career off social media, I don't get why those people don't think of like deleting old tweets or like old posts that could get them in trouble. Like, it's really not that hard. Just delete your old posts before they come back to bite you in the butt. But yeah, I was just like thinking about this because you have to adapt to like society and like things that people find acceptable and like things that people don't find acceptable. You can still stick to your own morals and values.
On one hand, he criticizes people who intentionally use slurs to hurt others, calling it low-key rude and messed up. Yet he fails to acknowledge his past use of slurs, whether intentional or not. It's hard to reconcile this stance with his earlier comments where he brushed off his actions as a product of the times or youthful ignorance. His focus on deleting old posts seems more like an attempt to avoid accountability rather than genuinely reflecting on why those posts were wrong. Saying it's not that hard to delete problematic content misses the point. But why does Kevin make these annoying videos? Kevin Leonardo thrives on controversy, deliberately creating offensive videos that generate hundreds of stitches and draw more attention to his content. This strategy works because TikTok's structure increases engagement. When a video is stitched, TikTok automatically tags Kevin's original post in the caption, making it easy for users to navigate to his YouTube account. This exposure directly drives Kevin's views, comments, and revenue, allowing him to profit from the outrage his content generates.
I'll be honest, I love minors. I love talking to minors. I perform on my cat Tobias every single day. I lubricate my cat's every single day. I'm really into colonization. Like, I almost wish I was there when my home country was being colonized. The darkest of Black people would get accused of cultural appropriation.
Unlike YouTube videos where links to creators' profiles aren't automatic, TikTok's design makes it easy for enraged viewers to interact with Kevin's posts. The controversy causes debates in the comments section. Some viewers even agree with Kevin, causing arguments that drive even more engagement for a video. This cycle ensures that Kevin's videos remain visible and profitable. However, this approach has a clear downside. Rage-baiting creators often draw the attention of large communities, particularly if they target or offend influential creators. Once mass reporting begins, TikTok can move fast, sometimes banning accounts in less than 24 hours for bullying or harassment. This pattern is common among rage baiters. Many rise quickly by provoking outrage, but are ultimately banned when the backlash becomes too intense. Kevin's current trajectory suggests it's only a matter of time before his platform is removed. Platforms like TikTok and YouTube have shown an increasing willingness to crack down on creators who violate community guidelines, especially when attention is drawn to their actions. Kevin's reliance on offensive content for attention and revenue might bring short-term success, but it's a risky strategy with a limited shelf life.
I'm so sick of people just like begging influencers to like apologize for things that like don't need an apology.
Many famous influencers have faced backlash for doing terrible things at some point in their careers. However, the difference between them and Kevin Leonardo is how they handled it. Most influencers eventually apologize, take accountability, and in many cases are forgiven by their fan bases. Kevin, on the other hand, takes a completely different approach.
Tell me why y'all literally harassed Haley Bailey into apologizing for using a viral TikTok sound about eating cake that like thousands of other people used. Like, what's happening? It's quite literally a sound about eating cake. But also, if somebody did do something wrong to you, you can like let them know. But why would you want someone to apologize if they don't like sincerely mean it in their heart?
When you wrong others, sometimes you could just pretend to be sorry, at least to ease the boiling situation. Being stubborn and pouring more fuel to the fire will not make the situation any better. Kevin makes it clear that he has no remorse for his actions. Instead of addressing concerns about his behavior, he continues to double down on the controversial things he says and does. This pattern suggests that he has no intention of changing or stopping. So where is Kevin presently, and what has he been up to? Kevin Leonardo continues to post actively on TikTok and YouTube, maintaining his usual style of content. His Discord server also remains operational, though the 18-plus NSFW channel has been removed. Despite this change, inappropriate interactions reportedly persist. Some details cannot be shared or fully explored here due to their sensitivity. It's important to remember that this discussion is not intended to incite harassment against Kevin or his followers. Engaging in unproductive actions like harassment detracts from the goal of raising awareness about risks. The focus here is on addressing concerns about negligence and its potential impact on minors in online spaces.
Fingering minors is one of my favorite things to do in life because I feel like it unleashes like a different side to me that you guys don't always see on the internet. Usually when I explode vocally, it's not to minors. I wouldn't say minors are like my preference per se, but I actually think it's so fun and so therapeutic for me.
While his past experiences may provide some context for his actions, they do not excuse behaviors that risk harming others, particularly victims of CSA. Kevin has a platform with significant reach and could use it to positively impact the LGBTQ+ community. Instead, his actions often feel reckless, prioritizing attention over responsibility. How long do you think Kevin Leonardo will survive having his platforms up if he continues posting these sensitive videos?